Welcome to another episode of GitHub Copilot. Copilot Extensions is available as public beta for all individuals who is having a Copilot license. The extensions are mainly for extending the capability of Copilot or integrating and customizing the experience of Copilot to further areas. For example, as a developer, we may need some data from an external system. It can be an organization system which deals with the deployment environment or our production environment, a private data set. We need such data as part of our development or SDLC process. Then we can extend the capability of Copilot by adding these data points, the external data points available to Copilot interface itself. So let us explore one of such extension. It deals with the image processing. So the name of the extension is Image Insight. It's a private extension. I will be sharing the complete source code for you to explore it further. So before going to Image Insight, let us understand what's the importance of different system design diagrams in our SDLC. It's not only limited to system design diagrams. When you deal with a complete SDLC or DevOps ecosystem or a product development end-to-end from requirement till the deployment, we deal with a lot of visual representations. These representations obviously provide a proper collaboration with the different teams or communicate properly a specific message. We use different diagrams for improving the collaboration, documentation purpose, or explaining the logic. This is the particular logic in a flowchart manner, or identifying the NFRs in a security architecture. All such requirements are captured through multiple visual diagrams in the SDLC. Some of these diagrams are, first one is the class diagram. Obviously you may know we define the system using a class diagrams which capture the high level structure of each of the class and the relationship between the classes, or a sequence diagram implicating the complex workflow in a particular scenario, how the sequence of operations are captured or how the user flow is captured. That is a use case diagram indicating what exactly the user expectations, or activity diagram or a component diagram indicating different components of your product altogether. It's not limited to this one. We may have architecture diagram, topology diagrams, or the database schema diagram in the form of a ER diagrams. So we deal with a bunch of diagrams. Using Copilot, obviously you can generate most of these diagrams, that is the code to diagram format. The current Copilot supports that aspect. You select the code and you can obviously give some command or prompt for Copilot to generate the diagrams out of the code. This information we covered in our previous video. I will provide the link to that video in the description. You can see how you can generate different system design diagrams using Copilot. Now, using an extension, we are going to reverse engineer. Most of the time, these diagrams comes from our design teams in a PNG or JPEG or a different format altogether. How we can use this diagrams and generate the code out of that, or get an insight out of that, or generate a test case out of that. That's the objective of this Image Insight extension. Some of the use cases are, first one is architecture diagram. Any developer, especially a junior developer joining a complex project, looking at the architecture is sometimes it's very hard to identify or understand. We need to reach to a senior developer or a tech architect to explain the diagram in advance. Copilot is there to help you to explain each components in the architecture in a detailed format. So the first use case of Image Insight is explaining the architecture or getting insight out of an architecture diagram. Second one is obviously we generated class diagram out of the code. If the class diagram is already there in your HLD or LLD document, how we can convert that structure of the class, reverse engineer it through this image insight extension. Or if you are going with the test driven development, how to generate the test cases, unit test cases first from the visual flow instead of waiting for the application development to be completed. In a data modeling aspect, if you have an ER diagram, how we can generate the schema using the create statement or the start procedure by connecting multiple tables based on the relationship defined in the diagram. Or pass the topology to define a configuration script at the end. Obviously, the screen design, if it is a web application or mobile application, your screen design will be coming as an image file or a PNG or JPEG file. How we can extract the CSS and HTML out of these screens. So let us explore some of the use cases. Obviously, image processing is endless. You can use multiple ways to extract the information from various images or diagrams. We will explore some of the use cases in this demo. So I'm going directly into the IMG Insight extension. Here we have the Copilot opened, chat is open in one place and some diagrams in the other place. The first one is a simple SOA architecture. We have a service consumer, bus and interfaces defined here. Obviously, this looks very simple, but for a newcomer, getting an explanation of each of these one, what exactly consumers doing, what exactly the service bus means, that will help them to get started with the project. So let me just take this URL and invoke my IMG Insight. So at the rate IMG Insight is the way, and you can pass the information back to IMG Insight specifying that explain the architecture defined at specify the URL. So here we are using the URL parsing and it's part of the GitHub repository itself. You can use an external publicly available URL or a URL directly from your GitHub repository, provided your extension have access to that particular repository. Here, it provided the complete explanation. As you can observe that it's defined, it's a service-oriented architecture model illustrating these components, what exactly each of these components means. If you want further information, you can ask Copilot Extension with a better prompt to get further information about this architecture diagram. So let us go to the next diagram. It's a class diagram here. So I'm going to use this class diagram. Let me take the URL of that diagram. This is the raw format provided here. I have the URL available here. So here I want to generate the class files. So again I am invoking IMG Insight, specifying that create C# class files based on the classes defined based on the diagram H, and I have the diagram again in a GitHub repository, the same repository where we are standing right now. The real estate repository contain a class diagram, and I am asking the Copilot extension to generate the structure. Obviously, class diagram comes with a structural angle. If you compare these two, the diagram says animal, duck, fish and zebra. Exactly the same kind of definitions come with the corresponding field and the structure for the methods defined. So it's defined the structure for the methods. All these details are captured here, and it's given a summary of classes. There are 4 different classes created, and duck, fish, zebra are inherited from animal. So it's not only creating the class diagrams, it's considering the relationship defined in your class diagram. In this case, these 3 classes, duck, fish and zebra is extending or inheriting from animal. So that is defined here properly. It's inherited from animal, and also it's defined all the fields and the methods defined. If you have some more details in the class diagram, that will be captured as part of the generated class. Now let us go into a little more further, where I have a flowchart which contains the complete logic of a method. If it is a complex problem, we define the flowchart to explain or visualize the complete logic. So we have the logic here. Now taking the help of Copilot to convert that into a specific method or function. Let me ask the image inside, convert the logic into, for example, JavaScript. I am going with the JavaScript function and provide the URL. Here I am using an external URL. It's a publicly available URL. This URL contains the palindrome. The method is defined, palindrome method logic is defined. I am asking Copilot to come up with a JavaScript function for this particular flowchart. It's defined is palindrome. If you go through these statements, it's properly taken care of the end-to-end process. It's defined the steps based on this flowchart defined here. So you can convert the logic or a complete method from a flowchart into the code corresponding. You need to specify whether JavaScript or Python or which language you need. You can convert that properly into the corresponding code pattern. But sometimes we may be in a TDD format. We may not be using the code first. So I'm going for a simple flowchart here. It deals with a prime number or not. And I am asking Copilot, instead of creating the code, let me ask Copilot to generate unit test for, I need to specify which platform. Let me use X unit, because I am using C#. Let it come with the X unit. Generate unit test cases using X unit for the flow defined at specify the URL. Again, an external URL I have passed here. I need the complete flow from this particular one. So here it is a test case generation. If you notice that it generated the test case prime checker test, and inline data, there are multiple data points. Based on that, it cover all the if else loops. The first one is 2 is the first prime number. Here you can see that the prime number 2 is there. And also if it is 3, again a prime number, 4 is false. A combination of multiple inputs are there. So it's a data driven unit test code is generated using X unit. Theory is mainly used by X unit. You can see using X unit on the top as well. If you are using a test driven approach, this is the way you can generate the test cases out of a complete flowchart. So the image is converted to test cases. Now from the test cases, you can go ahead and develop your logic and the main application code. Now let us move to the data modeling aspect. So here we have an ER diagram, a simple ER diagram, and let us see how Copilot is able to help us to do a data modeling based on an image. So again, I am invoking my image inside extension and asking for generate SQL. I need the schema to be created. So create statement. Using the entities defined at specifying the ER diagram. So in this ER diagram, we have 6 different entities. I'm expecting 6 create statements which have proper relationships also. You can see that appearance size, that's the first entity is converted with the proper primary key. There is no primary key denotation here, but it's considered size ID may be the primary key based on the information gathered. And the relationship, apparel and product have a relationship. And if you look at the product, apparel, and there is a product colors table which links these two, product and colors, with a foreign key setup between these two. And there is a product category table, this one, which link product and categories through foreign key setups. So it's not only captured the create statement by simply copying that different fields from a box. It's considered these lines which indicate actually the relationship between each of the entities, and the relationship entities are considered the foreign key relationship connecting to proper primary keys. So the foreign key used the proper product ID or the primary key for the reference settings. So this is how you can generate the schema out of the image. It can be this schema, or you can pass this image and ask for generating a complex SQL start procedure connecting multiple tables considering the relationship settings here. That is also possible. So here we done the image based data modeling. Now let us move to the next one, where you have a complex architecture here. From this target resource requirements, I just need the list of resources required. So I am just copying this one, again invoking IMG inside, asking what are the Azure resources required for this particular diagram. So there are a lot of resource requirements defined here. I need the help from Copilot Extension to understand what are the resource requirement here. If you look at front door, here the first one is front door, and there is a DNS setup is done for setting up the entire thing. This is the Azure DNS setup is done. There is a web apps for app service plan. Azure functions, somewhere the functions are defined. Service bus is used, blob storage, Redis cache here. There is a cognitive search. Let us see, Azure cognitive search. So the entire aspect, the resource requirement is captured with explanation, what exactly the purpose of each of these things. Sometimes if you get this kind of topology, you may need the complete configuration instead of just the resources. We may be interested on understanding the complete configuration script. So for example, I can specify IMG inside to generate the configuration script for the diagram at this. So I have a network topology here or a network architecture diagram. I need the configuration script for this one, or parse the network topology diagram to generate the configuration script. So that's the requirement I passed. You can see here it's came up with some configuration script. Let me see. Okay, it's taken ARM template. I haven't specified which script is required. If you need a Terraform script or Bicep script or CloudFormation script, you need to specify that as part of your prompt. By default, it understands it's an Azure deployment diagram kind of thing. So it's taken ARM template and defined the complete information. So let us see one of them. We have some databases. So whether it have sites. So here there are multiple one web service with multiple slots are defined. So the site is defined here, and you can see there is a SQL server with the databases, multiple databases. Key vault is also used. Let me see. Here we have the key vault that is also used here, and there is a insights configured, login analytics that is also good. And the parameters in terms of the location, app plan, everything is captured properly. So the entire ARM template is available. It's a configuration script. If you need a Terraform or any other configuration script, you can ask Copilot to extract that. Once again, let us try the configuration script generation using our IMG Insight. So I'm going to IMG Insight, passing exactly the same diagram. And here also, I haven't specified what kind of configuration script we need. It can be ARM, Terraform, or bicep scripts. Let Copilot decide which script will be more appropriate for me. So this time, Copilot came with the configuration script based on AC commands, ARM and Azure CLI commands. You can see that it's provided the commands for generating each of the resources using AC commands or the Azure CLI commands. In case I need the configuration in Terraform itself, I can specify that generate Terraform configuration script for the diagram. Exactly the same diagram, same Copilot extension. I'm just specifying the prompt based on my requirement. The first time it created using ARM. Next time it given Azure CLI based script. Now I specified that I need the script based on Terraform itself. So this time it's generated the script using Terraform. As you can observe that it's defined each and everything as specified in this diagram as part of this Terraform one, and given an explanation as well, and what's a placeholder it's specified that needs to be modified. Now our final use case. We may receive most of our web designs or the mobile application designs in the form of a PNG or an image file. Here there is a simple web application design. Let us see how Copilot is going to help us in getting or extracting the base HTML and CSS. I'm going with the base HTML and CSS. And this time, as this diagram is already in my repository itself, I can go ahead and attach it. There is no need for always send the URL. The extension handles the attachment as well. So you can attach the file and specify that what exactly required. Here I am asking IMG Insight to create the HTML and CSS file by considering the font and colors from the attached image. So I have attachment instead of a URL, the file is attached or the design is attached, and asked the Copilot extension image Insight to extract the HTML and the CSS, and it's provided that one, and also it's provided there are 3 images required. Obviously these images are not captured, that needs to be added, and then you can get almost the similar kind of, there is a font, feel free to adjust the styles if required. So the base structure is already here. Let us test this one. Let us test this. I'm going to open the VS Code and paste this HTML here. And we have a CSS. So let me take that one, paste it. Now go to HTML. Yes, styles are defined properly. Go for a live server. So you can observe here it's rendered the design. This is the design we passed, and it's rendered almost similar kind of a design and captured all informations in a proper way. And obviously it's a structure only. You need to start working on adding the images, replacing some of the elements. But the base structure, the image, from an image, you will be able to get the base HTML and CSS. Then you can modify the HTML and CSS to meet your requirement. So this is the some of the 8 use cases related to image Insight extension. Starting from analyzing the architecture diagram, we started with the architecture diagram, then created the code out of the class diagram, the complete logic from the flowchart, and unit testing out of a flowchart in a TDD approach manner, and obviously the image-based data modeling based on an ER diagram, and the target resource identification for a complex deployment architecture, and network topology parsing into a configuration script. Last one, the design to the code. You can explore further, maybe a number of other diagrams and use cases you will be able to identify and explore it. The entire source code is available for your consumption. I will be pasting the URL in the description. You can go ahead and explore this one. The step-by-step instruction and what exactly we used internally is there with the sample prompts, and the video will append here. You will get the video and also the local setup and deployment to assure. And if you are interested to explore further on Copilot extensions, the links for further exploration. Note that this code is not written using SDK. If you are planning to go with the JavaScript, you can write it using the SDK. It reduces the number of lines in your code files. But if it is another technology, if it is .NET, Java or anything, you can use the same code base, the patterns, the input, output configurations. And in another video, we will explain how to set up the end-to-end Copilot extension. You can go through that to understand how to configure it. Go ahead and explore further on Copilot extension. Explore the possibility of integrating external systems or customizing Copilot to address your developer needs. Thank you.